Hi, welcome back to Educator.com. Today we're going to have our first part of the general SAT strategy, actually taking the SAT. What are the sort of like academic, what are the best approaches to taking the test in how you actually answer the questions. Later on we'll have two different parts. The next part will be on the equipment that you're allowed to have at the SAT, and the third part will be on sort of more of the sort of like mental approach of how you want to think about taking the SAT, along with some other tips that are useful. So, legal disclaimer, test names are the registered trademarks of the respective owners. Said owners are not affiliated with Educator.com. The College Board was not involved in the production of and does not endorse this course. Alright, so first off, let's start with a common misconception. Your goal is to answer all of the questions on the SAT, right? No. Your goal is simply to get the highest score you can. You don't care if you answer all the questions. What you want is to get a really good score, right? You don't care if you answer every single question or if you answer 2 questions. The important thing to you is that you get the highest score you can. Often, the best way to get the highest score you can is not by trying to work carefully on every question. Sometimes it's in your best interest to not work on a question at all, because that'll give you the chance to focus on things that you can get. So the most important idea for the SAT that we want to really get is pacing. You want to learn how to pace yourself. And this is going to be true for any timed test you take at all, ever. You want to be able to pay attention to how much time you start with, how much you should allot for each question, when you are starting to run out of time, when you've put too much time into a question, all these sorts of things. Be able to pay attention to a clock, to a watch, be able to pay attention to the time as you're working on things. Be able to have this sort of smooth flow between knowing the time, how much time you should be working on a question, get a feel for when you've started to work on a question too long, or if you're still okay working on a question, all those sorts of things. Being able to pace yourself is a really critical idea. Remember, you get the same number of points whether it's a hard problem or an easy one. It's +1 no matter how hard the question is. So if you spend 5 minutes on a hard problem, that's 5 minutes you can't spend on questions that are easy for you. It might be that for some reason you hit one question in the middle of the test that's really, really hard for you because you don't know that concept. But the next questions after it, the next 4 questions after it, you're actually pretty easy for you because you know all those concepts. Wouldn't it be way better if you skipped that question that was hard for you and then managed to do all those 4 questions that are easy for you? Sometimes it's way more useful to not do problems that are hard for you. You don't want to spend too much time on one problem because that's time that you're taking away from other problems you could be working on. So, say it with me. It is okay to skip questions. Say it aloud once more. It is okay to skip questions. This is crucial. It is better than okay. It's what you should do. If you can't answer a question, you don't know that concept for some reason, or it's taking you a lot of time, if it's taking way more than what you'd sort of hope to do for that, circle the question, move on. If you have time left at the end, come back to the questions you skipped, but it's perfectly okay to skip a question. If skipping that question gives you the chance to work on questions you can do, why not skip it? It's perfectly the thing that should be done. That's what you want to do. Speaking of circling things, you're allowed to write in your test booklet. How great is that? That test booklet that they gave you, you paid for that thing, you're able to write in it. You might not be able to take it home, but you are allowed to write in it. All you want to do in it, you're allowed to do. Now, this is an excuse to doodle in it. Don't doodle or make drawings in it because that's time that you're using up doodling when you could be answering questions. Instead, use this as an excuse to keep yourself on task, to write in the booklet. Being able to write in the test booklet is this huge advantage for you. It's invaluable. You can cross out wrong answers, you can take notes, you can work problems in the margin. Writing in that test booklet lets you keep track of your thoughts. It keeps you engaged during a long, kind of boring test, and it lets you note what you should come back to later. I often just, if I have a problem that I don't understand, I put a big circle around that number, and then I move on. Because at the end of the test, you'll be able to flip through really quickly and go, oh, I didn't do 1, 5, or 22. Boom, you start looking at those. You start on 1, you're like, yeah, oh, I could do 1 after all. It'll just take me a little bit longer. And because you've got extra time at the end, because you managed to skip all the ones that would have taken you forever, you can go back and sort of cherry pick the questions out of the hard questions that you can do, that will be more accessible to you.